Alright, here we go. Part 2 of why I can't stand the Ars Goetia and you shouldn't either. So as we were discussing, the complexity that we see in the comprehensive systems, when we look at texts like the Testament of Solomon, when we look at especially Liber Iuratus or the Hygromanteia, there are detailed preparatory rites, purification rituals, invocations. There's a very clear, even if we were to look at the Solomonic Judaic transmission, we would also be seeing things along the lines of the Sartorah, which is a days long. Weeks? Maybe weeks long. Don't remember offhand. But preparation for this stuff. The Lesser Key omits all of this. The conjuration methods are heavily truncated. Probably as an effort to make this a book that's more accessible, rather than actually preserve the authenticity of the tradition. And when we look at it, the rituals it does have, we find a very interesting situation here. The Ars Goetia, the Lesser Key of Solomon, is supposed to be drawing on the Solomonic text, on the mystic texts within mystic sects of Judaism. It's supposed to be pulling from Solomon and from how Solomon did stuff. But when we look, the grimoire is heavily reliant on psalms. It's heavily reliant on Christian prayers. The invocations point their roots to the way they are structured, the way they are systemized, do not mirror the practices of Jewish magic. They mirror the practices of Catholic exorcist traditions instead of any other magical system. It's a highly Christianized framework that distances itself from the Jewish and Near Eastern magical traditions. It shows a clear, stark difference. That the linguistics are different, the theological structure of it is different. It's not what it's claiming to be down to the bone. It becomes this patchwork almost of Renaissance era magical practices. You've got a compilation that borrows from all over the place, and it does not integrate these things in a systematic whole. The methods that we see of spirit conjuration and binding also diverge significantly from our earlier Solomonic techniques. This is something that a lot of demonologers like to bring up as a polemic against Goetic practice. And it is something I can meet in the middle and split the difference with. But they claim, oh, well, we don't think you should torture, bind, and compel the spirits that you're summoning. That's fair. That's fair. That's a valid thing. That's a valid concern. And if there was a tradition that's what it was all about, and it was binding and breaking and torturing spirits to your will and threatening them, but wait, that's the Lesser Key. That's not, you don't find that, that's not in the Arbatel, that's not in the Hygromanteia, that's not in Liber Iuratus, that's not in any of these. That's only in the Lesser Key. The other grimoires treat it, the Verum, you don't torture, you make pacts and transactional actions, which is how the grimoire tradition, the Solomonic tradition, is treats spirits. The Lesser Key tries to act like it's a Judaic version of the triple compulsion, the Herzenwags, the Faustian stuff. And I'm not really sure why they did that. I think the writers didn't like the spirits. So even within the conjurations themselves and the way that they treat the spirits, that's incorrect. The spirits themselves, as we discussed, it was listed, the list was ripped off a thing. Now, the Ars Goetia enumerates 72 demons. The Book of the Office of Spirits contains a vastly different number. It's anywhere from 69 to 79. I think the Book of Office of Spirits had 69 plus some elemental spirits plus the 4 fairy spirits, for a number closer to 79. But the 72 is hamstrung and forced into here because it carries a level of resonance in trying to tie this to Kabbalistic traditions where the 72 names of God are seen as sacred. The Lesser Key decides they're going to exploit this symbolism to try and lend an aura of legitimacy and weight to this. Instead of presenting the comprehensive catalog, it curated its list, completely removing any value to its historical record. Again, the Grimoire of Dr. Rudd is a wonderful book that goes into this problem. And then, as we go further into the text, the idea of this as a Solomonic artifact, I touched briefly on this, that this does not follow it does the Christian prayers, it does not follow the, way of like the Verum or Eurodus or anything along those lines. But even when we dig in specifically into the Jewish esoteric works, such as the Sefer HaRazim, the Testament of Solomon, Sword of Moses, these things, they focus heavily on divine names and the angelic hierarchies. They don't really touch the demon rankings. And the Lesser Key decides, as we said, to use Christian prayers, Latinized names. Jewish traditional texts would invoke names like Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh, Adonai, Aa. All this is substituted with Christian phrases, just taking things out completely, making it that, like, this was a very Christian molded book. This was not a Solomonic thing. It does lift parts of the elements of Jewish and Islamic sources, but does not preserve the ritual structure on any of these, and the complete theological depth of these traditions is missing. It's a complete farce. Now, a lot of modern practitioners will accept the structure of this hierarchy without really questioning its origins, and so it perpetuates a lot of these long-standing misconceptions. Its survival in the occult circles owes more to repetition and inertia than any intrinsic authority in the book. If you are genuinely interested in the Solomonic tradition, in the Grimoire tradition, you would be better served by turning to the primary sources rather than the Ars Goetia that ends up being an edgier, more inaccurate, and repeatedly misrepresented text. These are my gripes with the Goetia. The spirits that we call Goetic spirits, that's all just propaganda. They are spirits of the Grimoire tradition. They are Solomonic spirits. They are, you could say, Grimoiric spirits. They're originally found in the Book of Office of Spirits, though, I got like 30 seconds. Shout out to Stephen Skinner. Apparently, and I haven't been able to read it yet, his new translation of the Summa Sacra Magicae may have the origins of more of the spirits, but the origins is not the Ars Goetia. I'll do a video in a minute trying to define Goetia, so we're going to 3-part this.